Today will be a day to remember for the rest of your life. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is excited to present the heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks. With over 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 47 states and countries all over the world, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans important life values like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
But you have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you.
Well, respect is not just given out. It's not handed out like a brochure. It's earned.
Today, you are presented with an opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more important than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. They didn't roll out the bed great. They put the work in, on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, in their communities. They made themselves a Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Your feet can't take you where your mind's never been.
Because you can make it, but it's just gonna take a little hard work and some effort and the drive and determination.
And today, you will learn you can do the same thing they did. You don't have to have a gold jacket or a bronze bust to make a difference in the lives of others. It's your decision whether you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
If attitudes are contagious, is your attitude worth catching?
It's integrity as well, because when you decide to pursue something and you don't quit, that says a lot about you.
Commitment to excellence. We can all aspire to be the best.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the heart of a Hall of Famer program, connected by Extreme Networks.
It's an honor being named into the Hall of Fame. You know, to having those 10 letters added to your name, but it takes more than just yourself. It takes a village of people. And with me, it was truly a village, because no one gets to the top by themselves. Someone had to push, prod, and pull me to the next level. Help me walk through the tough steps and be forever grateful. Each man and woman has an opportunity to impact a human being as they walk through life. And I'd like to tell you about the people who mentored me, offered me friendship and love unconditionally. I know there's a lot of people I didn't get a chance to thank, but I want to thank everyone for being here today, and I apologize for those I didn't get to mention. And I'm standing here today being honored because of each of you. So when the opportunity presents itself in your life, choose to be the difference maker in this village. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. With that, I'd like to welcome everybody here to Seaholm High School in Birmingham, Michigan. Not too far down the road from where tonight, a lot of 32 individuals are going to have their NFL dreams realized as we kick off the NFL draft. The unofficial start to the season, as we're going to see here tonight. For our latest and last installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, connected by Extreme Networks for this school year, featuring that gentleman you heard from right there, and the gentleman sitting here beside me, Mr. Will Shields. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth Education and Leadership Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where it's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which made this gentleman right here one of the best 378 football players and minds of all time. But to make you a great student can make our audience in here great students, teachers, and coaches. So I'm super excited to hear how these values impacted Mr. Shields' life both on and off the field. Before we do get started, though, some thank yous I'd like to pass out. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks for providing us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as well as students all over the country, the opportunity to hear and learn from our Hall of Famers. Without their support, we could not do this. So thank you so much to Extreme Networks. Secondly, I'd like to thank all of our teachers, administrators, anybody who allowed us into their classroom, not only for this program, but for this entire school year, allowing us to just be a small part of the students' learning experience. And a special shout out to the students and staff here at Seaholm High School for allowing us to actually be inside their school for the program today. And lastly, we have to thank the students. I mentioned to everybody in this room here before we got started, it's not every day a Hall of Famer walks through your doors at your school or is up in front of a big screen in your classroom. You have the opportunity to ask questions today. So make sure you take advantage of this and make sure you get your questions in. We'll be going throughout the schools we have connected in, as well as the students right here in front of us for questions throughout the program today. No matter where you're watching, if you're taking photos and videos, hopefully not during the program, but especially to our students and staff here after the program, make sure you tag at Pro Football HOF on all social media and tag at Extreme Networks and use the hashtag HOF Values. And your post just might be reshared. So it's enough of me talking. Nobody came to hear from me today. We're going to give a big round of applause and welcome to Hall of Famer Will Shields. First off, Will, thanks for being here. We always appreciate you getting to be a part of the program. So to start everything off, those 5 values we talked about: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty. For you, was there one that left more of an impact on your career? Or I like to say, are they all like a team where they kind of all work together to make you the best individual you can be?
I think each one sort of works in different phases of your life. And that's what's really cool about it. The simple fact of it is that when you start walking your path of life, each one affects you at different points and different things. It makes you ask different questions as you get ready to move forward. I was listening to a guy give a speech, and he giving a speech, and he was talking about different things that you can do. But he brought up the point that nobody's born ordinary. And I think that's sort of a unique phrase within itself. If everybody assumes, oh, I'm just like this person or just like that person, but nobody's born ordinary. Everybody has a unique thing, a unique skill, a unique talent. They just have to work at it to find it or find out what they love to make it happen. And to me, that's where these words sort of play the role of where you want to be and how you want to get there and what kind of things you want to do. So when you start off and you start thinking about the word commitment in itself, what does that mean? Or, is that over the top? Do I commit to get things done, or how do I do it? And sometimes you commit to the wrong thing. And that's another piece that's a hard part. And there's parts of your life where you've committed to the wrong thing. And, that's committing to do something with your friends that you probably shouldn't do, or committing with other guys to go work out on a regular basis, which makes you who you want to be at that point. To me, that's the one piece that sort of started with me. And I had a commitment with friends and that we would work out and force each other to be better. And to me, that made it unique. And, so then you go with integrity. What does integrity sort of build out within each individual? How do you build that integrity? How do you have the right things when you want to do the right things at the right time? So they sort of go hand in hand, and then you have the courage to say no when there's the things you don't need to do or don't have to do or don't feel comfortable doing. And that's hard to have that courage, especially at a young age, to go, hey, you know what? I think I'm just going to go home, or I think I'm going to do this, or I think I'm going to do that. And that comes back to your decision making and that kind of stuff, but they all fall sort of together. And then you have the respect. And I think that could be part of the issue of the other side of how do you earn respect? How do you get respect? And sometimes people don't like that. So they'll like, he respects me enough to let me know, hey, this is why I'm not doing this. Or she's saying I'm not going to do this because of that. And so you sort of build that things. And so as I went to school, all these things come to play with different scenarios as part of your life as you start to grow and build it in. And then you talk about excellence. What is excellence? Does anybody really know what that is? And every year in every situation, something else becomes even better. As you look at women's basketball, they're considered Caitlin Clark as being excellence. So every generation has that person that you can point to and say, I want to be like that person. I want to be for this thing or build it out and everything else. So for me, that's what sort of affected my life. So when I was younger, I wanted to be the Ep.251 Jones. I wanted to be a defensive tackle. I wanted to be, the wide receiver and running and doing all the different things when I played sports. Pickup games, you can forget about it. I was never offensive line. I was always a tight end or a running back or something like that. I consider myself being a small man trapped in a big man's body. So I could do everything that a small guy could do and try to do it as well or as fast or as everything else as they could be, because I needed to learn. I needed to be a part of it. And I think that's one thing we have to sort of figure out as you grow up. How do you create that own mindset to be able to do those things, to be a little better than what you want to be? And sometimes people look at it and say, well, how did you get to where you were going? And I say, I have a little problem here because I had fear. and be able to tell you that fear sort of made me famous. And people look at it and goes, well, what does that mean? Sometimes there's good fear and sometimes there's bad fear, but the fear of not making it on a football team, the fear of not getting on the field at this age made me do things that other kids didn't do. I was a latchkey kid, so my parents worked while I was at home during the summer. So I couldn't go out until they came back. So my dad came home at lunch, I would go out and run sprints. And then my mom would come home at dinner, and then I would go out and run more sprints. But it wasn't the simple fact of me thinking, oh, I want to be the best football player I could be. It was the fear of me not being in shape to be able to make the team, to be a part of the group. And so the group sort of forced me as being better as what I wanted to be and how I wanted to grow. And so each one of these pieces have sort of dug into that, of where I wanted to be and how I wanted to get there. But it was the fear of not being able to play, the fear of not being on the team, the fear of not being around my guys and being able to work and be better as you do it. But then it became an addiction on the other side of, hey, now how can I be as good as I want to be? And you never thought of yourself as being one of the better players on your team. I was spoiled. I had, a lot of great athletes that were on my team. And so I was never considered the top tier guy that was going to be recruited or what have you during the high school, college days. But I wanted to work and be the best I could be for the guys I was around. I had a guy that was our middle linebacker that has a gold medal in Barcelona. That's how fast he was. And he didn't even play offense. He just was our middle linebacker. And he's sideline to sideline, the guy that, has basically run into 400 and 200. And we only used him once on offense. Besides that, he never played offense. He just defense. So we had enough guys to do that. So, to me, that's where it sort of changes your lives of how you take your day-to-day steps, make the decisions of where you want to go and how you want to get there, but then putting a game plan together. To me, is that important. Who do you ask to get there? And that's why you're here today, is to find out, what is the best pathway for you for whatever you want to be, whether it's, on the field or off the field or whatever you want to do, it makes a big difference.
Awesome. Well, if the program wasn't an hour, I think we could just wrap it up right after that. I think we got enough. I think we got enough good stuff in there, especially stuff students could walk away with. But I want to talk a little bit about, you gave so many examples, and I would say 80 to 90% of the examples you gave had nothing to do with sports, nothing to do with football specifically. So looking at the game of football, how did it help you make all those things you talked about, make them stronger? So could you give us an example of a football related incident, football related time that you went through that helped you gain knowledge, gain strength in all those areas?
Well, I think it's sort of built in the simple fact of, hey, I'm going to commit to be the best we could be. And once you do that, it sort of sets the tone. So we were guys that we sort of went through of saying, okay, our sophomore year, we were sort of struggling. We went, 50%, we were half and half. And we actually went down and did a camp. We actually played the team in Texas. And Wichita Falls Rider, I can remember their names. That's how bad it was that they beat up on us. So it was pretty tough that they actually ended up beating up on us so bad. And we were like, yeah, we need to be as good as those guys. We need to be able to set the tone for those guys. And so we sort of made our own little pact of guys that said, we're going to get better. We're going to work together. And to me, on the field, that's the commitment piece. We committed to be the best we could be. And we start, calling guys out. Hey, when we go to work out, there's 4 of us or 5 of us that we would ride together or, drive together. We would do whatever we had to do. And also that commitment piece of trying to be the best you could be, of pulling guys, hey, man, I need for you to do this, this, and this instead of doing these other things. And so it's more about the team and about the group. And to me, as offensive lineman, you're all about the team because, I can't go out there and make a great block by myself and make it happen. And to me, that's what made it important and be a part of it. But to me, that was one of the pieces that really affected you on the field is how do you affect each other around each other? How do you build the camaraderie? How do you build the trust? And that comes with the respect. And respect usually comes with hard work. You can work hard around each other and they know you're going to do what you need to do to get there. They're going to give you the respect. They're going to give you the honor of working your way to it. And to me, that's what really helped me in football.
You mentioned to everybody here before, did not start your first NFL game, but because of an injury, you found your way in the lineup and you never left the lineup until you retired. So obviously, you've seen a lot of people come in and out of that huddle, whether it's linemen, sub guys, whatever it might be. You've seen so many people, but the idea of that huddle never changes. It's, everybody coming together, working for a common goal. So to be kind of the stalwart, the person that never left the huddle, how important was it for you to use these values, use the game of football to bring everybody together, even though it wasn't the same core of people for 11, 12, 13 years?
Well, I think that comes for when you're the person that's always in the huddle, then you're always the one that holds all the other guys accountable across the board. Not only you, but we had a center that was there that he would help hold guys accountable of, hey, this is the standard that we set. And so in doing that standard that was set, you're hoping that you have earned enough respect that the guys would come in, or whomever came in within that huddle would respect your words of what you've done and what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. And to me, that was the most important piece of, you set the standard. And so you try to set a standard, and then you look at somebody else's standard and say, well, maybe it's not good enough. Let me build it and try to get better. And I think that's where you have teams that become good to also end up becoming better and then becoming great. Because when you walk into a room and you see somebody, or you walk and that person and expects for them to do great things, you give them more time, you do more things, you lay it on the line a little longer, because now the goal that you've been trying to work to is attainable, which makes a difference. And to me, that's what makes each one of these stalwarts of pieces of where you want to be important. And that's why I say it changes every time you do something different as you get ready to work.
All the success in the NFL, culminating in the jacket, the ring, the bust, which we'll talk about later. But on your jacket right now, you've got the Walter Payton Man of the Year pin, winner of the award when you were in the NFL. For those of you that don't know, can you kind of tell them, for those that don't know, what that award is and how it ranks among your awards that you've won, and why is it such an important award for you?
Well, the Walter Payton Man of the Year award is an award given to the athlete that does great community service. Basically, they've built programs and did different things in their community. But throughout the NFL, they pick one a year. They put 32 up a year, and you get an opportunity to be that one. In 2003, my foundation, the Will to Succeed Foundation, was, celebrating the simple fact that we actually are the Walter Payton Man of the Year recipients in 2003. And for us, it was more or less about giving to others, being a part of it, and building out what you can do in your community. And that's what you do off the field. Is how do you build the same reputation across the board as far as what you want to do in the community that you did on the field. And to me, that's being a part of a great community and helping others in different ways and giving other people opportunities that you're now currently afforded because, you're a professional athlete. We talked about a little earlier in the room about, hey, what's the coolest thing about, being a professional athlete? That's like they pay you to play a sport, and they give you an opportunity to change the lives, not only of your family, but a lot of others that are around you. And the question is, are you willing to be a big enough person and use these principles of life to be the next caveat to build out what your community could be in the future?
Awesome. All right. Well, I know I got a lot more questions to ask, but we got to get to the students here. So anybody in the room have a question here for Will? Like we say, just shoot your hand up. If you got a question, go ahead and ask it. I know we asked a lot at the beginning, but there's got to be some more out here. Yep, go ahead.
What's your biggest key to success?
Biggest key to success?
I think the biggest key to success is, part of it is truly keeping an open mind, being able to look at things at different angles, to be able to build out from anything that comes at you, to be able to look at all the different angles of it and being able to create what is the best thing I can do to make this better. And I think as long as you keep that mindset, that'll make you as good as you want to be, but also better because you're learning from other people and you're looking at all the different angles and saying, how can I help make that piece of business, life in general, better than what it was when I walked in the room?
Awesome. Great question. Another one from our students right here. Go ahead.
You keep alluding to your mindset and how it's helped you so much. How do you stay so locked in and focused on bettering yourself?
I think part of it is where you want to go and where you need to do. And how do you figure out the little nuanced things that you need to do to get there? I go back and ask the question of people I grew up with, and I go, was I a little different? Was I a little weird? Was I a little this or whatever you want to call it? And they go, no, you just seem to walk to the beat of your own drum. Like you already had something in your mindset of where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do. So you were always on that path. And to me, that makes a big difference. So sometimes you have to make that hard decision of who you're around, where you're going to be, and who you're going to be with to get where you want to go. And I know it's hard because, yeah, I want to be known as the guy that's cool to hang out and do this, that, and the other. But also on the other hand, I've got goals. I've got things that I want to accomplish. I mean, if I wanted to be a professional athlete. I wanted to perform at a high level. And I didn't even know what that high level was going to look like. But I knew I couldn't do it if I was doing certain things with other people. I had to spend the extra time in the weight room. I had to go out and run more. I had to go do those little things to catch up with some people that are naturally gifted that way. So for what they could do naturally, I wanted to build in something on this side that sort of counteracted. And to me, that makes the difference. And it's not saying that you'll always tell everybody, no, I can't do this, no, I can't do that. But it's also making you make that best decision of, what do I need the best for me for today to get me to where I want to be.
Awesome. Well, we've talked so much already today about those values, and that's part of our mission statement of what we believe in at the Hall of Fame. But, those first two pieces are honor the greatest of the game. So it's like this gentleman sitting here beside me, all the other Hall of Famers and anybody who's had an impact on the game of football. We celebrate that and we honor that at the Hall of Fame, but we also preserve its history. At our core at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we're a museum. From way back in the late 1800s all the way up to the stars of today, we're preserving that timeline, that history of pro football. So we want to try our best to not only preserve that, but we also want to showcase it as much as we can. So we thought, what better way to do that than go live to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, into our museum, into probably the most famous part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we have the Senior Director of Youth Education and Leadership, Jerry Shockey, there in front of some artifacts that are probably going to look very, very familiar to you. So Jerry, whenever you're ready, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jake. And thank you, Will. Good to see you, my friend. And all the students that are not only there live with Jake and Will, but all the students that are tuning in live from across the country. What an awesome opportunity it is to learn from one of the greatest ever. And I want to give you an idea. When I say the greatest ever, I want to give you an idea of what I mean by that. So let's put some numbers to that statement there. So think about this. Throughout the history of the game of football, at all levels, there have been roughly about 300 million that have played it. On the college level, there have been about 5 million. The professional level, there have been about 30,000 that have been paid to play, coach, officiate, and administrate the game of football. There are only 378 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and only 371 bronze busts right now to our new class gets enshrined here in August. So that gives you an idea of just how big of an honor it is. And I'm joined by, right behind me here, you can see up above me here, by Hall of Famer Will Shute. So that gives you an idea of the person that you're talking to here today, that you get to learn from and glean from him. And we're not talking X's and O's here today. We're talking about life skills and overcoming obstacles and adversity and barriers and things like that. But the question I have for you, Will, is, when you come in this room, you almost want to take your shoes off here because, the reverence that's here. But one of the things that the word that comes up quite often in this room is legacy. And so what does legacy mean to you? And what do you think the students can do in their life to kind of keep that in perspective, legacy?
Well, I think there's a lot of things they can do to build out their legacy as far as where they want to go and what they want to do. It just so happens that mine ended up being in football. There's many different pathways to where you can build a legacy of growth and understand community legacy is just as good as any other legacy that you can build. I know most people go, well, I had this big corporation, this big business or what have you. But it's still not just as important as somebody that can build a great community. And to me, that's what a legacy is. It's building something that somebody can actually look forward to and say, I like what they've done. I want to build upon it and make it better. It needs to stay and be a part of it and grow. And to me, that is a legacy. That's truly where you want to build yourself for the future of what can happen and how you can build on it.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I appreciate it so much. And students, enjoy your time here today with one of the greatest ever. Jake, I'll send it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for giving us an inside look there to the Pro Football Hall of Fame Museum. Jerry talked about, jokingly, feel like you got to take your shoes off when you walk in there. One of the questions I'd like to, to ask to get your viewpoint on, because obviously I don't have it, is when you walk into that building or you come to Canton, Ohio as NFL legend Will Shields versus walking in the doors as Hall of Famer Will Shields. Is there a difference? Is there like a relief off your shoulders when you walk in, knowing that, like we like to say in Canton, it's your second home?
It's really cool, the simple fact that I get a chance to walk through there and see all the guys that I emulated and I wanted to be like. And the thing of it is that each guy, you took a different part of their game and you wanted to emulate that, So if you had the Earl Campbells of the world, yeah, I wanted to be like Earl. I wanted to be able to have the tearaway jerseys. I wanted to have people that I can run over, or if I was the other guys that are in the room, I wanted to be, the linebacker type. I wanted to be able to hit people and play them and do different things in that nature. So I emulated a lot of different guys and tried to morph them into one part of your game. But when you walk in that room and you get a chance to see all those different guys in the room, it all brings those flashback of memories and those understandings of what made you where you wanted to go and why you love the game so much. And then brings back flashbacks of games that you guys are going to have. Of course, right now, the Patrick Mahomes era and those guys of whomever your team is and what they're doing now is going to be with you for the rest of your lives. And when you have children or whomever after the next level, you'll still be talking about, oh, I remember that game when we went to this or we did that, even back to high school, because we still do it now. We won state championship in '87. And I tell you right now, anybody that has the resume that was on that team, it's still on the resume. Because we talk about it, we're about it, we build it, and it's something, that special moment that you have in time, that you did something unique that other teams and other people hasn't been able to do.
Along the same lines, walking into the Hall of Fame, for those of you that don't know, every August we have our annual enshrinement week where we enshrine our new class. And part of that week is not only over 100 Hall of Famers coming back to Canton, Ohio to celebrate the new classes. On that Friday, there's a luncheon called the Nitschke Luncheon after Hall of Famer Ray Nitschke, where only Hall of Famers get to go to. No media, no staff, not even the president of the Hall of Fame is allowed in that room. And, we talk about the idea of respect on the field, which I'm sure players here have heard all time and time again. You talk about those 4 to 6 seconds, though, where maybe that goes out the window a little bit. But after the play's over, obviously it comes back. And obviously you have respect for your teammates and your opponents on the field. But what is that respect like in that room where it's the best of the best, from guys like, you talk about Earl Campbell to new Hall of Famers, Calvin Johnson, things like that. The timeline of stars that are in that room. What's that level of respect like when you get to, to sit at that table in that room?
So what I love about this is that all the guys get together. And of course, if they were teammates, you watch them sit next to each other and they just start talking about, like, they're in the locker room. Like, hey, remember we did this, or we were doing that, or this, that, and the other. And of course, I get to sneak around and I go and sit at other tables on purpose. Of course, this year we couldn't break up the Pittsburgh Steelers table, which I wish we could have. But I did take a great picture of it because it's all the eras of Pittsburgh Steelers that are in the Hall of Fame, all sitting at one place. And so you got that sort of mass thing of, these are the greatest of the greats that played the game, and you got a chance to see them. But I sneak and sit at different tables every year on purpose, so that I get a chance to meet someone new and to listen to them talk to their teammates. But it's also fun to, have some of the quarterbacks that come back to sit with them tables, because, they get a little more chatty and they talk about some of the stuff that they get to do, which was a little different back in those days compared to now. But it's one of those feelings and, one of those moments to where you can actually be that fly on the wall and sit there and go, these are all the guys I want to be like.
Awesome. We talked a little bit about the successes you've had, obviously being a Hall of Famer, Walter Payton Man of the Year, but humility is a kind of a thing that always comes up, especially with, stars, whether you're on the big screen movies or you're an athlete, the idea of being humble. So through all these successes that you've had, how important was it for you to remain humble through all the success that you did have?
Well, what I really like about it is that I'm an offensive lineman. So we don't have to worry about being humble because they humble us in the room. They humble us in different ways because we don't have the stats and the line and the limelight. Everyone else gets the stats and limelight, and we love that for them because guess what? We can live in the shadows and do our job and love it every day, and yet not have to worry about all the other pieces of it. But the thing of it is that I think we sort of keep each other into that goal of, hey, this is your job. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And so I think that's the greatest aspect of a team is to say it's a team thing. And to me, that's the most important piece of being able to say, I didn't do it by myself. I had teachers that helped me get to this point. I've had coaches to help me get to this point. I had parents to help me get to this point. You just realize that you can't do it on your own. You can't do it by yourself. And it's okay to go out and ask for help. And to me, that's the better piece of everything else. Whatever you need help with, go ask and see if you can get there so that you can become the best you can be.
Now, along the same lines, being an offensive lineman, you don't get the stat lines. You don't have the fancy Pro Football Reference page with all the stats. When us as fans hear of offensive linemen, it's usually because you make a mistake, you got a penalty, you got a holding, something wrong happened is when we hear about offensive linemen. Was that tough for you, or did you like kind of being, the person behind the scenes, or were you the person that wanted the big stat line, the touchdowns, the receptions, the fumble recoveries? Did you like the offensive lineman mantra, or did you want to be in the line?
You got to realize I've been an offensive lineman since I was a baby. So I've never played any other position in football, organized football, than an offensive lineman. So I am what they call a true traditional offensive lineman. I was a lineman from when I was basically young all the way through high school. So I never played tight end or anything else. So I loved what I did. And I was good with what I did. And that's what made it fun because I got a chance to help other guys be better. And they got a chance to help make me look good. And that was even the cool thing about being, it was like, oh yeah, this guy did this, this, and this. And it's like, man, you could really run. I was like, no, I was just trying to catch him. I was just trying to do this. I was just trying to catch up to that guy. I was trying to do those different things. And so that makes it more important of what your team does to make you better. Because without a John Randall on the other side of you that you try to block, there is no Will Shields. There is no person to do what you need to do to try to become the best you can be.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, we're going to go to one of our remote schools for a question. So we're going to go to Bridges Elementary School for our question. So our folks there at Bridges, go ahead and unmute your microphone, turn your camera on, and have the students step up to the mic and ask their question.
What coach did you respect the most, and why did you respect them the most?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Just respect on its own. I had a bunch of great coaches. I think the one that I got the closest to in the pros was Coach Vermeil. So Coach Vermeil was one of those guys that sort of set his tone when I first met him. Coach Vermeil said that he was going to fire me and that he was going to let me go into free agency. And then fortunately, our quarterback made some bad decisions. So they ended up keeping me on the team. And then me and Vermeil became very, very good friends, almost to the point of family. So we talk on the phone at least once actually almost once a month.
Very cool. Thanks for that question. Great question. So speaking about Coach Vermeil, how cool was it for you to see him being enshrined and get his flowers as now a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
It was awesome. It was awesome to spend time with him and his family and to watch him go in because he's one of those guys that sort of reset where you were to another level of, he was telling you what you couldn't do, even though you're going, man, I've been to Pro Bowls, I've done this, he's done that. So yeah, but you don't use your outside hand enough. You don't do, he went to the little things that he saw that you could have got better with, and he was fine with it. And he would tell you that straight up and not just sort of, well, you could do this, you could do that. He would go straight at it. And that's what you loved about him as being a coach.
Looking back on your career, do you have a favorite NFL moment when you think about all the games that you played, the things you got to be a part of? What was your favorite moment of your NFL career?
There's not just, I don't think, one moment. I think there was a time piece that was really nice of when you had an offensive kind-minded head coach. And I think Vermeil was that point. So that's why you ended up falling into that timeline of where you were more offensive oriented. And before that, we had more defensive oriented coaches, which was okay, we're going to go 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards. We're going to, hold the ball. We're going to do this. Where Vermeil was like, okay, score every time you touch the ball as fast as you can and get off the field. And so I think that's when he had the most fun, is when he just let you go loose and try to do as much as you can do as fast as you can do it.
It's always cool to see, coaches, other teammates get enshrined. But let's go back to when you got notified that you're going to be a member of the Hall of Fame. Do you remember who the first person outside of the Pro Football Hall of Fame to reach out and contact you to congratulate you that you're going to be a member of the Hall of Fame?
Actually, I'm not sure who was the first person, but I knew a couple of years before that, Willie had went in. And so we had discussed it, and he was like, don't worry, you'll get in sooner or later, but it's just take a process. And so really, at that point, you're sort of in awe. So you don't really remember who the first person was to contact you. But I had a friend of me, Matt, that he was traveling with me. So he was there when I actually got the knock on the door. And so I would have to say Matt would be the first person that knew that I was into the Hall of Fame.
Obviously you had to wait. You weren't a first ballot. You had to wait a few years after you were eligible to be a member of the Hall of Fame. And, you hear the stories about guys being bummed out that they're not first ballot, which I can assume, after putting in the time and the work that you did, you were in that camp as well. But does that kind of all go away when you finally get the, hey, you're a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Once you get that call and says you're in, all of that disappears. You remember the story about when you first got this, that, and the other, but once they say, hey, you're a part of this class, you're going to have a gold jacket, all that stuff just sort of disappears. And I think the thing that's interesting about it is that what's interesting about this gold jacket is the simple fact that it's not something I played for. I played to be the best I could be for the guys in the locker room, for the guys that were my teammates and that kind of thing. And this is sort of that sugar on top, that cherry on top kind of thing of, oh, by the way, if you keep doing this, you could become a Hall of Famer. And the first time I heard that was from Art Shell. And he, was like, hey, man, if you keep doing this, you might put 10 letters behind your name. And I was like, what's 10 letters? What does that mean? And he was like, well, that means Hall of Fame. And he was like, oh, okay. So another Hall of Famer just told you that if you keep doing what you're doing, you might get an opportunity to be as good or be able to be in that room. And to me, that sort of was like, oh man, that's pretty cool, but I don't think it's ever going to happen, and then when it does happen and he's standing there waiting for you and he gives you that opportunity, it sort of, gives you that, man, this is crazy to say that you're actually now a part of that room. You still sort of pinch yourself and say, I'm really in the Hall of Fame, I'm an offensive lineman and it's this, that, and the other. So you still sort of look at it that way.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got some more time for some questions from our students right here at COM High School. So if you got a question, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll get you caught. Go ahead.
How did doubters affect when you were going through the process and everything? Is it any of them kind of switch up when you made it to that top?
It was really interesting. I actually kept all the articles and stuff like that where you had the guys that do all the research and looking at it and write the articles and tell them, well, this guy, he does this, he does that. I don't know if he's going to be good in the NFL. I don't know this. And so to me, it was one of those motivation pieces across the board. It sort of gave me more motivation to sort of prove that, yeah, I deserve to be here and I should be here. And so I wanted that opportunity. And when the Chiefs finally drafted me in the 3rd round, for me, it was that point of saying all the other teams now that didn't draft me, that passed on me, will now have to feel the wrath of Will. So it gave me motivation. And I think it was the greatest thing that could have happened to me is not to get drafted till the 3rd round, because it actually just made me work a lot harder because I wanted to prove that I deserved to be there.
Who was your favorite player growing up?
Favorite player, Ed Too Tall Jones. Yeah. I was a Dallas Cowboy fan at that point, and Jack Lamb was pretty cool too back then. Nice little linebacker.
Go ahead right there. Yep.
What offense did you run at Nebraska?
We ran the option. Yeah, we ran the option back then.
Any other ones from? Yep. Go ahead.
What do you think the best feeling in football is?
What is the best feeling in football?
Oh man, it depends on the position and where you're at and what you're doing. But I think if you're, of course, offensively, touchdowns are always great, especially if you can celebrate them together. And defense is that tough stop that, 4th and 1 on the 1, you make it happen. And to me, the eruption after you do that is one of the greatest feelings that you'll have. Even if you, to a point of, for me to start it off with, I guess football wise, it would have been, winning a state championship as a group. That was pretty cool.
What was your biggest lift? Like, what's your max bench?
Your biggest lift?
My biggest lift. I'm a hip sled guy, so my legs were a lot stronger than my arms. And plus, I have freakishly long arms, man. So I'm like 37 in my arms. So bench press was not my thing. But I would hip sled like at least 1,000.
Yep, go ahead.
What was the best lesson you learned from football?
What was the best lesson you learned from the game?
The best lesson I learned from the game is that, there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing. There's a lot of different ways that you can teach it. There's a lot of different ways you can learn it. And there's a lot of different ways that you can consider it a win. Only if you do, and I think that's the hard part. If you're ever into the coaching piece of it, you'll look at it as like, my way is the best way. It's the best way that you've learned how to do it, because there's other ways that other athletes can do it to get the same result or a better result, just depending on how they're built. And I think that's something that gave me the opportunity to look at football as like anything else. There's always different ways to do it. It's just you trying to figure out the best one that works for you.
You said you played with Joe Montana.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, who do you think's the GOAT?
The GOAT of which?
NFL football is like history.
Tough to do. Depends on the era. Era of football is different. So you have to go by eras, and that makes a big difference because every era has different rules. And if the rules change, that means that's a new era. And so if you can't hit the quarterback like you used to get hit, then it goes to another quarterback. But if you could hit the quarterbacks like they did back in those days, it'd be different. And so that's why you can't just say which one's the best player ever. And sometimes they change rules for certain players so that it makes a difference in how they can play and not play. So, it's hard to say that it's just one guy, but each era has a different guy that has played really well.
No, you talk a lot about the game changing. I want to focus on, obviously played for the Chiefs your entire career.
Yeah.
They have been on a run, to say the least, the last 5 to 8 years. As a, not only, as a fan of the game, but as a former Chief and alumni, how cool is that for you to go back in the building, see the Lombardi trophies and see the success the team has had?
It's amazing to watch. What was really cool about it is that even before Mahomes took over, the year before when they drafted him, you would go over to the building and they'd be going, man, you should see what this dude is doing. And he was, on the bench at that point. They were like, man, he's doing this and he's done this and he does that, and as being the old grumpy guy, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll see what happens. We want to, make the proof is in the pudding. And, but yeah, it's lightning in the bottle, because regardless right now to that point of, you never look at it and go, oh, well, you look at it and go, yeah, they don't look as strong as they did or this, that, and the other. They just find ways to win. And to me, that's the most unique piece of it, regardless of what's there. They find ways to win. And it makes the city, explode a little bit.
You've got to see a few Super Bowl wins here over last few years, last year specifically. Can you walk us through what Super Bowl day looks like for Will Shields when the Chiefs are in the game? And then what are we doing afterwards? Are we celebrating, are we with the team?
No,
or are we just gonna
I'm not with the team. I don't get to go to the party that they have afterwards. Everybody talks about that, meeting Taylor. I don't know her at all. Never met her. I do know Mahomes pretty well. I know him and Kelsey and those guys. But yeah, so game day for me is different because I actually work for the NFL. So I actually have, things that we do with them, and we host gatherings for guys that go to those host cities, and we host a room where you can actually watch the game or come in and do pregame stuff. But then actually, if the Chiefs are in the game, I do try to find an opportunity to go to the game and to watch them play. Which every year it's different, but this year was sort of interesting because I got to sit with all my San Francisco 49er fans that were around us and talk back and forth and talk about different things as they go on. And, fortunately, they did well and ended up winning the game.
Yeah, it was a great game for sure. So while we're on the subject, of what the NFL looks like today, is there a player that you see a lot of Will Shields in today when you watch the game of football or you watch the Chiefs, or, is there a player that sticks out to you as, I see a lot of myself in that person.
Well, I'm trying to get Trey, which is our right guard. I'm trying to get him to become the next Will Shields. I'm trying to get him that way. So I do a little work with him, trying to get him prepared for what he's going to do in the next season and two. But there's a lot of guys that do good things. I mean, I know Big Smith is now moved, and he was the left tackle at Dallas. That's now in Philadelphia. Think he signed. Oh no, he signed with the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was a guy that really knew how to play the game quite a bit. And he was one of those guys that you sort of watched and could see him do some different things. But there are some guys out there that are getting better. But as they say, different eras. So there's things that I could do that they can't, and vice versa. There's things that they can do that I can't. So it makes a little difference. It's hard to compare apples and apples.
Before we leave today, be remiss if we did not talk about what's starting here tonight at 8 o'clock. Here in Detroit, the NFL draft. I know the kids here asked a little bit about your draft story ahead of time. You referenced it here a little bit, but can you kind of tell everybody else again, what was your draft day like? What was that whole experience like from the combine all the way up to hearing your name called?
The combine was definitely different. Well, I was a roommate of one of the guys that were going to be a first-round draft pick. So I got to answer the phone for him when they were trying to find him quite a bit. They were like, hey, where is such and such at? And I was like, I don't know. Where is it? He was like, they're like, well, who is this? And I was like, really? You called my room, but you don't know who this is. And so it was answering services for other guys at that point. But combine was fun. At that point, I thought I was going to go to Arizona, the Cardinals, because that coach said that he liked what I was doing and everything else from there. Then we had our workouts during the off season. I had 2 requests for workouts. One was the Chiefs and the other one's for the Rams. The Chiefs never came because they traded for Montana. So they were up there putting in their offense. So the Rams coach came and he said he loved my workout also. So then we go into draft day, and my agent is actually, one's from Kansas City and the other one's from Connecticut. And so I'm in the house with my agent from Kansas City, and we're going around the first round. And the second round, I get a call from Washington. So I thought I was going to be a Redskin at one point. Not Redskin anymore. Commanders, my fault. And sorry, aging myself, guys, aging myself. And so I thought I was going to go to Washington, and they called me in on the phone, which is an interesting story. They go, hey, has anybody been calling you? And, the kid that can't lie at this point goes, well, no, nobody's been calling me yet. And he was like, and I thought about it and go, I should have said yes. Yes, everybody's calling me. And he goes, well, we're thinking about taking you here in the second round. We got a pick here that's coming in. And so then the pick came and went. And then as we were in the middle of the second round, my agent goes, don't worry about it, Will. The Chiefs need a guard. They just signed a guy, but they need a guard. I think they'll take you here in the third round. And so comes around the third round, I ended up getting picked, which was pretty cool. 2 picks behind my middle linebacker from high school. So we went in the same draft. And so he went to the Raiders and I go to the Chiefs. And so I get an opportunity to, go to Kansas City and play him, twice a year. And so draft was pretty cool. It was pretty hectic because, you kept thinking, oh, I should be here, should be there. But you just take the opportunity as it comes and you make the best of it.
Awesome. So I always like to too, we do this when we talk about the new class coming in, but I think it's cool. If you could have, we fast forward, tonight's over, you get all 32 rookies in a room, and it's just you and all those rookies. What would be that one thing, that piece of advice you would want to convey to them as they start their NFL careers, their NFL journey?
Well, I think right now, the one thing I would try to convey to them as a group is you need to set your boundaries of what you want to be and how you want to be and who you want around you. Because that is the most important piece of where you want to go. How do you want to get there? You need to set the game plan tonight of how you're going to do, what you're going to do, where you're going to give up, because you're going to have to give up something somewhere. You can't do it all and be all from the beginning. You got to establish yourself of where you want to go and how you want to get there. Let's set the stage for tonight. Give me a 5-year plan. And then after you get to that 5-year plan, let's see what happens after that. Because really, you got to get out of the first contract. I need to get you to your second contract. And then after you get to your second contract, the third one is even better. But I need to get you to the second one first. And what are you willing to do and give up to get there? And, I usually tell them, like anything else, you're coming to take a grown man's job. And that's a tough thing to do in any sport, in anything that you're willing to do. Somebody else already has that position, and you're coming in trying to take it. They'll give you an opportunity being a first round pick, but they will not wait forever.
Looking at this year's class, is there anybody that stands out to you as, this might be that guy, or this might be the next person, or you've seen tape of X player that might have the tendencies to be a star in this game?
I think just Jalen Daniels he could be special. He could be really special. I mean, he is unique. Some of the things he does and how smooth he does it, it's scary. Because, you just watch him play. It doesn't look like he's trying. And he's just running away from people and things like that. To me, he's one of those guys that could make a big difference in the game. Marvin Harris Jr. could be that other guy that could do some things that would be special. But, those guys are the ones I've just off the top of the head I could pull out that I think could do some good things. I think good about it, anybody that has a dad that was in the league, between Marvin and then John Alton, those guys, they've got a little head start because dads already have told them and they've lived that life as a kid, so they know what to expect.
We got one more question here for me before we wrap up the program today. And first, want to say thank you so much for giving up your time to be part of the program today. I know you got a busy schedule. Also, a thanks to all the students and staff here at Seaholm for allowing us to do the program here today. But last question I have for you, and it's the way we wrap up every program, because I think it's a good way to send not only the students here in this room, even myself, everybody we have watching online, what's that one key piece of advice you want somebody, if it's the only thing they can remember from today, what do you want them to walk out of the room with today? Be something we talked about already, something that maybe hasn't come up, but what's that one key piece of advice you want everybody to leave with today?
Yeah, I think one key piece of advice is find something you can hold on to. Find something that can put you in a place of understanding of that you can hold on to and always go back to it to when you feel times are tough or when you think you can't keep going. For me, it's a Sioux word that's called Hantayo. It's a word, Hantayo, and it means clear the way. And we've learned it in high school as our mantra. And so that's the one thing I can go back to, is to where I can look at it and go, okay, man, I'm having a rough, yeah, my day isn't so bad. There's someone else that has this, or there's this, that, and the other. I'm building on that. So it's my Hantayo moment of what am I doing to clear the way for myself or for the next person next to me? And so to me, you find that one word, that one thing that can bring you back to reality of, yeah, life's not that bad. We got things we can do and accomplish. And so for us, that's what we use as our mantra, to the simple fact of finding your mantra of what's going to make your life a little better.
All right, with that, we're going to wrap up the last program of the school year in this latest installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, connected by Extreme Networks, featuring Hall of Famer Mr. Will Shield. Let's give him one big round of applause. And myself, everybody at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Mr. Shields as well. We want to thank you guys for being here today. Thank you for your great attentiveness. All the schools who have tuned in online, thank you so much. Anybody who's watched the program this year, thank you for allowing us to be a small part of your learning experience and bring the sport of football and all the great life lessons it teaches into your classroom. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you next school.